So I think there's a huge misconception as to what spiritual awakening is, and hopefully I can clear it up in this little video. So when you were born, you were programmed by your parents, how to feel, what to eat, what to believe, and all these things. And then eventually your school teachers and other family relationships, social media, all of this stuff begins to program you, and it puts all of these thoughts in your brain, that all those thoughts together that you hold on to, you can call it your identity. Okay, you say, this is who I am. It's not who you are. It's what's in your mind, and it's what you view in your mind and what you believe to be yourself. And so you live, you go to the church that you were taught to go to, and you eat the food you were taught to eat, and you get into a relationship with someone that you were taught to get into a relationship with, until eventually you kind of revolt. But usually when you revolt, you're still revolting, even though you're revolting against maybe what someone has taught you to do, you're still choosing a different program. So you're still not stepping out of the matrix. You're still in some program. For example, if your parents tell you, don't date someone of a different race, then if you do it specifically because they told you not to do it, and you're going to do it to revolt, you're still doing something that is based on what the parents said, whether it's an agreement or disagreement. So it's still part of the program, still part of the matrix, and here you go going through your life, all these decisions and all these things you've done, 95% of your life has been a lie. You're just following along this program in your mind. Okay? So spiritual awakening, or a true self-awakening, whatever you want to call it, happens when there's a pause in that identity. That pause can happen in many different ways. Sometimes people are in a car wreck, and that car wreck shifts their whole focus off of that false identity and into the moment and into the reality. Sometimes it's meditation. Sometimes it's a number of things that can cause a spiritual awakening. Something causes that pause, and you say, wait a minute, who am I? Why do I continue to eat this and do this when something inside me is also saying that's not what I feel? And then you begin this spiritual journey where you're trying to figure out which is the real one, and which is the programmed one. And during this process, there will be a moment when you go all the way back to nothing, meaning that nothing in a good way, not in a bad way, that you go all the way back to this nothingness where you say, I don't even know. I'm just here, and I'm just in this bliss, and I'm just like, and when you first step foot into that spaciousness, it's powerful and it's blissful, okay? And it usually is surrounded by a moment that even everything else seems to be playing itself out perfectly, because it is. People lock onto that moment and say that's the spiritual awakening, but it's not. And what happens is, because they lock onto that moment is going to shift. Always does. Guaranteed. And when it shifts, they say, what happened to my spiritual awakening? I lost it. No, you didn't lose it, because that's not what your spiritual awakening is. The spiritual awakening is when you go back to that spaciousness within you, where everything's coming and going, except for you, your true identity. It's not coming, it's not going. It is the awareness, it's the presence. A spiritual awakening is when you realize that all this good stuff can happen to you, you stay as awareness. All of this bad stuff can happen to you, and you stay as awareness. And when you realize you are the awareness, it doesn't matter what your circumstances are, that is a spiritual awakening. You can't lose that awareness. That awareness, if somebody describes it as bliss, can be misleading, even though it's not. If you've never had the experience and somebody calls it bliss, then what you're looking for and what you're trying to achieve is this constant state of happiness and everything's working out in your favor. And that's not going to happen. And that's not spiritual awakening. But once you have the experience and you use the word bliss, what you're describing is not everything is always working out in my favor and that's why I'm happy. It's that everything is coming and going, some of it good, some of it bad, but I remain unchanged, and that's why I'm happy. There's a big difference there. One can simply just be a moment where something awesome happens to you and you feel good. That doesn't mean it's a spiritual awakening. On the other hand, when you realize that if good stuff happens to you, bad stuff happens to you, you get this job, awesome, your girlfriend breaks up with you, not awesome, all of this coming and going of stuff, but you remain as the witness, as the awareness, as the pure presence of this indescribable essence. When you are in that space, you are awake now to your spiritual essence, which is why we call it a spiritual awakening. You haven't just become aware that something good has happened to you. You haven't become just aware that like synchronicities are happening. You haven't just become aware that you can learn to let things go or forgive. It's not just being aware of your mind being quiet for a moment or two. A spiritual awakening is neither good nor bad. A spiritual awakening is waking up to the non-duality. There is no me and you. There is no us and them. There is no subject-object. And not many people actually have this experience. What they have is an experience of, maybe they do some plant medicine and they're hanging out with, some amazing people for a weekend and they say, I am spiritually awake. And that's not always true, and that's not always the same thing. And I'm not trying to take anything away from anyone. I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad about what's going on in your life. But what I do want you to do is not get stuck in this space that now everything should be happening like rainbows and butterflies and bliss, and somebody's just going to walk up and hand me $10,000 so I can start a business and all this stuff because I'm spiritually awake now. That's the bullshit that a lot of social media wants to feed into what a spiritual awakening is, and it's not. A spiritual awakening is as simple as someone in a poor neighborhood sitting on the front porch in some old rocking chair and just existing. Not existing as something amazing happened to me or something bad happened to me. Now, once you have that spiritual awakening, it's usually not solidified that easy. You will keep going back and forth from being this nothingness to getting pulled out and stuck in ego again. Because you will still continue to chase after that which is good, and resist that which is bad. And that is what I call the awakened loop. It's not the same thing. Don't give up. Don't stop trying to just let everything go and be free. You can do this. Anybody can do it. Don't get stuck on your epiphanies. Don't get stuck on your elated feelings, because those elated feelings will come and they will go. The spaciousness that I exist in is the witness of all that comes and goes. But it does not change me. And when you discover that, it's blissful. Namaste.